I bought a lot of books in the month of February. Let's talk about them. Hello everyone and welcome to A Fictional Escapist. Today's video is my February book haul. The reason it's so late is because I was waiting for things to come in, and I'm going to take out some pre-orders and just talk about them in the months that they arrive, just to keep this nice and short. Not that short though, because in the month of February I received and bought 28 books. More than my bank account and more than a book buying ban would ever allow, yet here we are. I've bought a smattering of different genres. We've got a non-fiction memoir, we've got some romance mystery, we've got some... It's mainly fantasy, and I've got some sci-fi, as well as both self-pub and traditionally published books. So I am going to start with ebooks, and I'm sorry if you don't like ebooks or ebooks being talked about in book hauls, but because I am moving into probably a parent's house for a few months next year before my wife and I move across the country, a lot of my book purchases will be ebooks just for portability, so I have something to read for 4 months while all of this is packed up and in storage, except for one box of books, which I'm allowed to take in the car when I move to my parents' house. I haven't decided what I'm reading yet, but that's fine. That's a future Chris problem. Anyway, jumping into the books. We're going to start off with the ebooks. There's a lot of self-pub ebooks that I've picked up. So any self-pub author, I'll try and link their socials or their Instagram down below. That's just the platform that I use most often, just so you can check them out and their work. The first one we have is To Those We Found by George. And this is a first contact science fiction, and it goes in the YA genre. Personally, I don't read a lot of YA, I don't read a lot of science fiction, but I have followed George since he was writing this book, and I'm kind of curious. The description says, in a far-off galaxy, the purple-skinned alien Taman Yeda left his home colony for the motherworld Yama. As one among billions, he was chosen to represent his home system and compete against 6 other chosen ones in a grand contest called the Animus Report. Animus Report. It's spelled differently to Animus. I hope I pronounced it correctly. It sounds kind of interesting. I don't delve into YA a lot, but I'm looking forward to giving this one a go and just supporting a buddy who's chasing his dreams of being an author. Good job, George. The next one I picked up is another self-pub ebook, and that was Crash Antarctica by Linda Engler. This one has been described as post-apocalyptic sci-fi. The author has another series set in a post-apocalyptic world, sort of dystopian, but I also believe this one branches into an eco-disaster sort of story. The description says, to come together, one family will have to survive a world coming apart. A mother and scientist trapped in an earthquake-ravaged Antarctica, a daughter fleeing rising water in Florida, a father and son escaping tidal waves in Boston. When an earthquake sends the Thwaites Glacier crashing into the ocean, the world begins a sudden, violent transformation. Catherine, a seismologist wintering in Antarctica's McMurdo base, must survive the crumbling continent after discovering unprecedented seismic activity. Meanwhile, her family struggles to escape raging tsunamis and violently rising global seas halfway across the world. I remember watching 2012 in the cinema, and as an eco-disaster, global warming is coming movie, and I was terrified, and this sounds like it is on par with that. The next couple of books I've already talked about in different videos, so they'll be linked up above, but I did purchase them in the month of February. The first one being A Life Unsundered by Ricky Smith. Had this one on my TBR for February, so won't go into too much detail here. It is a introduction fantasy novella to a new world. It is Mr. Smith's debut novel, and it looks like we're dealing with some family and political drama in a fantasy setting. The next one is Ledgends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. Same goes for this one. Check out the card above. High fantasy with low stakes, and it sounds delightful. I can't wait to getting around to reading this one. Up next we have The Citrine Key by L.L. McCree, and this is an introduction novella to her Dragon Spirits series, and again, got it on my radar. Click that up above. And then lastly, the ones you've already heard about is Nana by Mark Taus. This is an abstract horror dealing with the elderly. We've got some body horror, some sexually explicit content. It's weird. I thought it was pretty cool, and I talk about it a lot in my end of month vlog. Moving on to some more new stuff that I've purchased, we have Hag of the Hills by J.T.T. Ryder. All his life, Brennus has been destined for warriorhood. However, a farmer's life doesn't provide many opportunities for swordplay and glory, despite the goddess of winter's gift of the sight, the ability to see the side of the other world. But when the hillmen kill his family and annihilate his clan, he knows the truth. No one can avenge his homeland but himself. I discovered this one on Instagram as well. I discover a lot of my self-pub on Instagram. If you're a self-pub author, hit me up on Instagram. I want to know about your work. This one sounds really cool, and the author is pretty active. There's a lot of swordplay and stuff on his Instagram. So yeah, looking forward to jumping into that one as well. Next up, we have I, Gurzil by I Anonymous. This is a historical feeling fantasy with a scary looking dragon on the front, and it sounds pretty cool. I've heard some good things from other people who have read it. Roger Reeds has just done a review, so you can go check that out. I'll link it down below. With the fall and sack of Rome, the barbarian hordes of the East claimed the lands of the Western Empire and brought forth an age of tyranny. Against the darkness, two heroes will rise. They come from worlds apart, bound together by magic and cursed by fate. This one will probably be a wild card in the next coming months to pop into my TBR, but I'm looking forward to jumping in. Another one that was influenced by Roger Reeds was Paladin Unbound by Jeffrey Spate. I'm sorry if I pronounce that incorrectly. This one is for lovers of a literary RPG. The last of a dying breed, a holy warrior must rise up against a growing darkness in Avelium, I believe. The most unlikely of heroes, a lowly, itinerant mercenary, Umhra the Peacebreaker, is shunned by society for his mongrel half-orc blood. Desperate to find work for himself and his band of fighters, Umhra agrees to solve a rash of mysterious disappearances, but uncovers a larger, more insidious plot to overthrow the natural order of Avelium in the process. As Umhra journeys into the depths of Telsador's keep to search for the missing people, he confronts an ancient evil and, after suffering a great loss, turns to the god he disavowed for help. Compelled to save the kingdom he loves, can he defeat the enemy while protecting his true identity, or must he risk everything? That sounds pretty cool. I love literary RPGs. It's probably my favourite subgenre within fantasy, and if you add some horror elements in there, just chef kiss. The next one I picked up was Dragon's Reach, the Keeper Origins book number 1. The truth is neither plain nor simple. Sable, a reluctant thief from the slums, can feel truth when people speak. For years she's been using that skill to try and break free from the vicious gang boss she's indebted to. Escape comes in the form of an odd set of companions: a dwarf running from the past, an actor with a magical glowing tree, a too helpful kobold, a playwright with a knack for getting stories out of people, and a man and woman with suspicious magical powers. This one sounds pretty cool. It sounds like a lot of fun. Love a good companion novel, good ensemble cast, and that's what this one sounds like it is. So looking forward to jumping into that one as well. Of the traditionally published books, we have The Rise of the Mages, and I'm just going to keep calling out Roger, who's made me buy many books. You should definitely check out his channel. This one is by Scott Drakeford, again for fans of the literary RPG. I've heard this one is a lot of fun. If you're just jumping into a new fantasy world, this is a debut novel, and it says, Emerald Ire wants nothing more than to test to be a weapons master. His final exam will be a bloody insurrection staged by corrupt nobles and priests that enslaves his brother. With the aid of his war master tutor, herself an undercover mage, Emerald discovers his own latent and powerful talents. To rescue his brother, Emerald must embrace not only his abilities as a warrior, but also his place as last of the ancient mage kings, for the fallen god has returned, and he is hungry. Got my attention. The next two are part of a series. I'm only going to talk about the first book, just spoilers and whatnot, and that is The Forgetting Moon and the Blackest Heart by Brian Lee Durfee. I really like Mr. Durfee's channel. It took me a while to get used to the very, very dry humour that he brings across, but now I love it and I can't get enough. So I'm looking forward to jumping into these books because his third one will release later this year. So for the first book, it says, War has come to the Five Isles. This series is called The Five Warrior Angels, and this is book 1 and book 2. The description for book 1 says, "War has come to the Five Isles. A merciless host driven by the angel Prince Eros has its sights on the unconquered kingdom of Gulkana. Its ruling family are fractured. The newly crowned king reigns in a paranoid isolation, and his two sisters have troubles of their own. Jondrelin wants to prove her worth as a warrior, while Tala has uncovered a secret that may destroy the entire kingdom. Hidden at the edge of Gulkana, however, is Nile, an orphan taken by the enigmatic Shorecroft to a remote whaling village. He is now a young man who may be the salvation of the entire Five Isles." I've heard really good things about these books, and one day I will have the hardcovers on my shelves. At the moment, you can't find them. Well, at least not on Amazon when I looked, because I think the third book is coming out. We've had an awesome cover reveal for that third book, and yeah, they're just going off shelves. So I picked up the ebooks. I do want to read these ones probably while I'm staying somewhere else early next year, so having them portable is beneficial to me, but I will buy them at some point. Next up is a sci-fi, and I don't read a lot of sci-fi, and it is Elder Race by Adrian Tchaikovsky. I haven't read anything by Tchaikovsky before. I'm very intimidated by the size of the books and also the sci-fi subject matter. I worry that my brain won't be able to hold information if it's very spacey. That being said, I'm looking to give sci-fi, particularly space operas, another chance this year. Yeah, this book is only about 204 pages, I believe, so I thought maybe a smaller work might be enough to sort of, I guess, train my brain into some of the language that's used in some of the bigger books that Tchaikovsky has available. In Adrian Tchaikovsky's Elder Race, a junior anthropologist on a distant planet must help the locals he was sworn to study to save a planet from an unbeatable foe. Sounds pretty cool. At 200 pages, I think I can do that, and it will be a nice introduction to this author's writing. Next up, we have Winterworld by A.J. Riddle. I saw this one on Joe from Average Joe's Library on his channel, and this is another First Contact, post-apocalyptic First Contact sci-fi. It sounds like it's gonna be, you know, a fairly easy to follow storyline for someone like me who struggles a little bit with heavier sci-fi elements. I'm hoping to get to this one as another wild card. It says, "In the future, a new ice age has begun. Humanity stands on the brink of extinction. Desperate for answers, scientists send probes into the solar system to take readings. Near Mars, they identify a mysterious object moving towards the sun. Is it the cause of the Ice Age, or could it be humanity's only hope of survival? With time running out, NASA launches a mission to study the object, but it isn't what anyone thought. In the darker space alone, the team makes a discovery that will change the course of human history and possibly end it." Sounds pretty cool. Sounds like a good time. Looking forward to getting to that one, whenever that may be. Okay, those are the ebooks that I have purchased. Now we're going to go into the physical books, which is a pile next to me. So we're not done yet. We're about halfway through though. The first one I picked up and I've read and already done a review for is A Soul's Aspect by Mark Holloway. This was a debut fantasy novel, good coming of age story, solid debut. So I'll link it up above so you can check out more of my thoughts there. The next one I picked up is another self-published book, and that is The Blood of the Spear by Mark Timoney. This is one that I'm hoping to get to in the month of April, and it's for fans of the Wheel of Time, apparently very heavily influenced by the Wheel of Time. On the back it says, "Two brothers, one prophecy, a world in peril." I have heard really good things about this book. Again, it's a debut. I don't know too much about it, just the people that have read it have really enjoyed it, and I'm hoping to give you my thoughts sometime in April, but very much looking forward to this one. Next up, I've got a non-fiction memoir which I've been waiting for since November of 2021, and that is Apparently There Were Complaints by Sharon Gless. I have followed this woman from Queer as Folk. So Queer as Folk was a show, I think it was on Showtime actually in the early 2000s, or maybe it was 2000 or the late 90s, and it was showcasing the lives of gay men in Pittsburgh. Sharon Gless basically bullied her way onto the set because she wanted to be part of that movement and those stories which weren't being told very much at the time, and I really admired her since then. And just watching interviews with her, she's a hoot, and I can't wait to get into this book. And she's had such a long-standing career both in theatre and on film and television. So I'm looking forward to getting to this memoir. Apparently it was 10 years in the making. So yes, very, very much looking forward to it. We've got people like Lily Tomlin, Renee Taylor, and Rosie O'Donnell giving quotes on the back, and yeah, I love her. Okay, jumping into, let's do these ones, because it's not fantasy, and then we'll just jump into fantasy. I've picked up the first 3 Bake Shop mystery novels. So we have got Meet Your Baker, A Batter of Life and Death, and On Thin Icing. These are short little mystery romance novels. I saw it on Instagram on something where they were talking about food on the cover, and this cover just got me. It's got a pun for a title, it's got delightful looking baked goods with a skull in the middle, and then I realised that there was a set of 15, so I picked up the first 3. They're nice and short, maybe little palate cleansers in between, heavy fantasy. I do like mysteries as well, I just don't read them a whole lot, so hoping to get to these. And this follows Jules Capshaw and her bakery. She moves home, and there's a bakery, and then there's mysteries around that area, and she must help solve them. But I thought they were super cute. Look at that. Super cute books. Love a good pun. Happy to get to those at some point. I might take them when I live somewhere else because they're little. You can stuff them in between things. Moving on. Had a couple things arrive over February that I ordered sort of, I guess, late last year. I ordered the Vicious and Vengeful box by V.E. Schwab. Victor and Eli started out as college roommates, brilliant, arrogant, lonely boys who discover that under the right conditions, someone can develop extraordinary abilities and become extraordinary. V.E. Schwab is an author that I have not read yet, but her Shades of Magic trilogy, which is somewhere down here, is on my list to read this year. And I saw this at the same time. They both came in box sets, so hopefully I enjoy Shades of Magic, and then we'll jump into this set. I know a lot of people love Vicious and then aren't so sold on Vengeful, but we'll see. We'll see what happens and where my thoughts lie. I'm running out of room on this pile. The next one that arrived that I ordered a while ago is Jade Legacy by Fonda Lee. I'm reading Jade War at the moment, or listening to Jade War at the moment, so looking forward to getting into that one, but I don't even want to read the back because I don't want spoilers for Jade War. So here's the book. It's pretty. It will go down here when I rearrange my shelves yet again for books that I have purchased. Okay, we have 4 to go. The next one I got was a collection of horror short stories, Strange Tales from Japan, and this is collected and retold by Kazuki Nishimoto, translated by William Scott Wilson. These are a whole bunch of short stories. There's some horror artwork. I don't know if that ring light's going to be too glary to see. In there, I picked this up at just a local independent bookstore. I love Japanese horror. They do horror so well. Check that out. If you can see it. I don't know if that ring light's going to just not allow you to see anything. But they're like 1 or 2 page stories that come through. I like to be scared, so pick that one up, and I'm looking forward to that. This is just little stories that I can read in between other things, which is cool. The next one I got was Thunderhead by Neil Schusterman, and this is the sequel to Scythe, which I have not read. This is a YA dystopian, some people call it sci-fi. I've heard it's more dystopian than sci-fi, so we'll go with that. I picked it up for like $16 because I've heard Scythe is so good. Again, I don't read a lot of YA, I haven't jumped into it yet, but if it's good, I've got book 2 to follow on with, and eventually I'll go and get book 3. 2 to go. The Justice of Kings by Richard Swan. I know very little about this. It is a debut. I've heard it's more of like a mystery crime than it is fantasy. The fantasy elements aren't really there. But I don't mind a mystery, and I don't mind very subtle fantastical elements. So I don't know. I think I'm going to enjoy this one quite a lot. It is getting a lot of praise. I don't know when I'm going to get to it on the never-ending TBR. But yeah, I am looking forward to it. This one says, no man is above the law. The empire of the wolf simmers with unrest. Rebels, heretics, and powerful patricians of all challenge the might of the imperial throne. Only the order of justice stands in the way of chaos. Sir Conrad von Volt is the most feared justice of all, upholding the law by the way of his sharp mind, arcane powers, and skill as a swordsman. At his side stands Helena Sedanka, Helena Sedanka, his talented protege. Butchered pronunciations, sorry. When the pair investigates the murder of a provincial aristocrat, they unearth a conspiracy which stretches to the very top of the Imperial Society. As the stakes become ever more personal, Von Volt and Helena must make a choice. Will they abandon the laws they've sworn to uphold in order to protect the Empire? I don't know. Looks alright. Give it a go. I got caught up in the hype train, so pick that one up. The last one that I picked up was I saw on Elle's channel, Elliot Brooks, and that was the Furies of Calderon by Jim Butcher. I've read 2 of the Dresden Files books, or listened to 2 of the Dresden Files books, I should say. I don't mind it. It is a series that I would like to continue on with, but they're sort of like, they're good palate cleansers. It's good fluff, you know, they're easy to follow along with. The narrator is very, very good. I think it's James Marsden at bringing Dresden to life. So I think if I'll continue the series, but I'll probably continue it on audio just when I have time. But I am curious about this series. There's 6 books in this. It is called the Codex Alera series, and I've heard it described as adult Pokemon, so I'll give it a go. For 1,000 years, the people of Alera have united against the aggressive and threatening races that inhabit the world, using their unique bonds with the furries, elementals of earth, air, fire, water, wood, and metal. But in the remote Calderon Valley, the boy Tavi struggles with his lack of furry crafting. At 15, he has no wind furry to help him fly, no fire fury to light his lamps. Yet, as the Alerians' most savage enemy, the Marat horde returns to the valley, Tavi's courage and resourcefulness will be a power greater than any furry, one that could turn the tides of war. I said furry a lot. That was the last book. That was my February book haul. There's quite a lot of books in that. Don't worry, March will be much smaller, and I'm pretty sure will only be self-published. So if you want to pick up a new self-published author, then stay tuned for that one. Hope you liked the video. If you did, give one of these. If you want to see more of it, click subscribe at your will, and I will catch you in the next one. Ciao.